This is Bob Clarkson. Is that so? How about another myth buster? Let's look at this one. Jesus lived a prosperous life. The myth that Jesus and the apostles were materially successful. Well, to be sure, as we've all heard, where God guides, he provides. Where God leads, he feeds. And so on, so that what God asks us to do, he provides provisions for. And in one sense, if you looked at the disciples and Jesus' ministry, it was fairly well financed. Now, it turned out that Lazarus and his sisters were rich. And essentially, not only were they rich, they really could pretty much support Jesus' work. But on the flip side of that, bear in mind, although Jesus taught about being good to the poor and the needy, he couldn't give his funds away to the poor and the needy. He couldn't have his treasurer write checks to charity because the people who were supporting his charity would have been upset with that. Now, the assumption that goes along with this prosperity of Jesus is that, life would be good. Well, Jesus got more pushback than any prophet in history. And he got the pushback from the most religious men of the right religion of God in that day. And the pushback was so great, Jesus' only negative teaching was his sarcastic responses to the Pharisees who kept trying to undermine his Father's teaching. Jesus didn't relent. He didn't come back at them out of anger. He just came back to correct the message and confirm the truth and blow away their lies that they wanted to keep feeding the people. But if you notice, that was a form of persecution and public humiliation that the Pharisees were trying to do with Jesus. But in the end, when it comes right down to it, it was worse than that. Jesus was actually finally massacred, murdered, put on a cross, and snuffed, hanging naked to suffocate to death. And the apostles, all but one, their recorded end was martyrdom, death. Only John didn't get martyred. So when we come to Jesus, it's not about living a prosperous life in any of the material, temporal, touchy-feely things that we have in our lives. It's about relationship. Focus on the relationship and the prosperity of that relationship and how good those relationships feel. I got that in the meeting this morning. The men at that table were truly, deeply bonded in great friendships, not just common belief.